It's off to Leonard, defended by Simmons. Is this the dagger?
Rocking the beanie. I like the beanie.
Dude, I'm not joking. It's so cold even in my I have my heat on. I'm fully just like trying to stay warm.
I don't blame you. I was doing it yesterday.
I'm sorry for the people watching, but yeah, we're in tough times right now, man.
No, it's a fashion statement and it's a necessity.
I got my
that's
blue
like double
lights.
the reason to wear it.
Right, absolutely.
You're giving off like major hipster vibes.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
I love it.
Right.
So yeah, we got a good one today. Kind of an interesting one in terms of like how this episode is going to run. So we're gonna hit our game first, and then I took a step onto Vin's corner in our planning meeting a couple days ago, and I suggested a draft. So we're gonna wrap this up with a draft, but first we're going to hit Game 6 of the 2014 Western Conference Finals, the San Antonio Spurs at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Last episode, we covered Game 6 of the 2013 Finals, the Ray Allen shot.
Yep.
And briefly covered Game 7 at the end of that episode where Miami closes out the series, wins 4-3. San Antonio blows a 3-2 lead. They blow a 5-point lead in the final 30 seconds of Game 6. They're right there in Game 7. And then we come into the 2013-14 season, and I think it's fair to say, like, we know that San Antonio has one of the most talented rosters. They have the infrastructure, the organizational pedigree, but I mean, how many teams have lost in such brutal fashion? Like, right. I think we need to start there.
Absolutely. I think, I mean, obviously they had the roster, and they have a deep bench. They have, guys really able to score in big moments. Kawhi is getting older. But the fact, that might have been the worst loss potentially in NBA history, in my eyes. I mean,
let's briefly talk that out, because I think it's a conversation worth having, and because not only are we talking about the Spurs, but it informs their entire 2013-14 season, because the very first thing that they did at training camp going into that year was rewatch and rehash everything that happened in Game 6 from start to finish. They own their mistakes, every single guy. They ran through the entire game and kind of nitpicked everything that went wrong in Game 6, whether it be Ginobili's turnovers, Kawhi's, split free throws late, Duncan's missed bunny in Game 7, Popovich's mishaps and, subbing Duncan out late in Game 6.
Yeah.
And Ginobili even said Pop wanted us to see it again. He wanted us to feel it, and to realize what happened and why it happened. I think the fact that they didn't run from it, that ended up being like their superpower that season. So anyway, now that we've set the scene, is there a loss or a collapse that you could think of that could have been as damaging to a team's psyche over the last 25 years as that one?
Well, the reason why I feel like it was more damaging to the Spurs at that point is because they were an older team. I think that had it happened to a younger team, it might have been more damning to like their psyche. But the Spurs only had a couple of cracks left at it, and they like felt like they blew their last one. And that's where it was like I feel like they very easily could have just kind of been like, well, it was fun while it lasted. That was our last go around. We gave it gave it all we could, got it to 7, but it just, we didn't have enough in the tank. There's no way we're going to be able to run this back next year. And I think that it just kind of talks to their culture. It talks to their star player. I think it's very well documented that Pop has always been able to kind of rip into Timmy, and he lets him. And in the NBA, that's not something that happens. Coaches don't really get to coach, especially their star players.
Right.
They're kind of left to be on their own and to handle their business. But Duncan let Pop coach him, and he in turn had the freedom to coach everyone on the team, because if Timmy's not going to, respond to Pop, how is Danny Green going to say anything?
Right.
So they're able to take those losses and really learn from them without pointing fingers like, well, it was just this guy, I did my thing. Pop was able to hold them accountable, and because Duncan let him, everyone else had to. And I felt like that was the most important part. I don't think another team does rebound from that loss. I think only the Spurs could do that because of the way they were coached and their culture.
Yeah, I mean that's a really good point. Not only about the culture that by this point it's 15 plus years into it, where Duncan's been there, and he's been coached the same way the entire time. And that means everyone else who comes to San Antonio, there's a standard already.
Yep.
The other point you made about the age of the team and how this could have been looked at as like the window is now closed. They're different than like I think the two examples that first came to mind in terms of a devastating finals loss. The first two that came up thinking about the parallels to San Antonio were the 88 Pistons, which is obviously before our campfire kind of range. But they're up 3-2 against LA. And they have the Isaiah sprained ankle game. They have the phantom foul on Lambeer. But they're young at that point. That's their first trip to the finals. And then I think the other kind of parallel is the 2015-16 Warriors, where they have a championship, but like Steph is still very much in his prime. Draymond and Clay, same thing. And they have the benefit of they signed Kevin Durant in the offseason. So they like reload in a way that the Spurs don't. Right. So I'm with you. I don't know that there's necessarily a great comparison. I guess maybe you could say like the 2011 Heat, how they
it's a bad loss to me. Would it be 2019? The 2019, I think I'm thinking of the Kawhi shot. That was a bad loss for Philly because that broke their whole entire roster up. They let go of Jimmy Butler after that. Yeah. They were a title contender, and then I feel like that broke their spirit, and I don't think they ever responded back.
That's a good point. I mean, I think it's not the finals, not even the conference finals, but I think you could make a case that if Philadelphia beats Toronto, they could have beat Milwaukee in the Eastern Conference Finals, and you get to the NBA Finals. What sort of answer does Golden State have for Embiid? We know that Jimmy could elevate his play. That's a good call. But I think that
they had Redick on that team too. Like they had they spent a good amount of money on that team, and because they lost earlier, I felt like they just decided to go against it. But
No, that is definitely a tough loss to overcome, and they don't necessarily ever really bounce back from it. I mean, they get the 1 seed in the East 2 years later. I mean, I guess you could even make the case that Philadelphia's lost to Atlanta, where Ben Simmons passes up the layup and just has a complete meltdown in real time, and they lose to Trey and the Hawks. Like, that one's bad, but again, it's not the finals.
no.
It's not you're 30 seconds away from winning a 5th ring. So I don't know that there's a great comparison, but they didn't run from it. They come back the next year and are arguably better. They win 62 games. At the time, I believe that was a franchise regular season record. And they make it to the Western Conference Finals again. After kind of getting tested a little bit early, they get pushed to 7 by Dallas in round 1, a really weird Mavericks team with an aging Dirk. They got Monte Ellis. Vince Carter hits a game winner in that series. That one goes to 7. It's kind of inexplicable if you look at those two teams. Then they sweep Portland. I believe, they sweep Portland in the next round, and then it's another matchup. What's that?
Gentleman's sweep.
Was it 4-1?
Yep.
Okay. I guess in my mind it was just they.
Let's see what happened in that one. Who was it? It must have been Aldridge, right? Probably.
Aldridge or Lillard.
Yeah, which is kind of telling. Lillard had 25. Aldridge had 19. It was game 4.
Okay, so they're up 3-0. Portland's
last game at home. Yeah.
Yeah. Man, do you remember how, just as an aside, how good Aldridge was in the Rocket series the round before?
Yes. He was, absolutely.
Just gave Dwight everything he could handle.
Yep.
Awesome series. I was playing quarters in my dorm room when Lillard hit the shot that ended the series.
Going left, right? Like going
left, there was like 0.9 on the clock.
Yep.
And he's running toward the ball and he's clapping.
Yep.
And he gets the shot off. Yeah, I was very intoxicated for that game. Okay, so we get to the Western Conference Finals. It's Spurs and Thunder, a rematch of 2012 Western Conference Finals when the Spurs go up 2-0 and lose 4 straight. It's the matchup that everyone kind of thought we were going to get in the Western Conference Finals in 2013, but then Westbrook has the meniscus tear. The Grizzlies get there past Oklahoma City. And I think you could make the case that we get to the West Finals, and maybe it doesn't look like it in the moment because the Heat are still the Heat. They're on the opposite side of the bracket. They take care of business against Indiana. But I think you could make the case that in this season, these were the 2 best teams in the league.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously Miami was coming off the championship, so probably got to throw them in there, obviously. Right. But, I mean, OKC, it felt like those 2 players, Russ and Westbrook, were probably, at the peak together. They were getting there. It's like they had like a 3 or 4 year run where they were really able to win a championship, and I felt like this year was a part of that. And then the Spurs were just so consistent the entire year. It did. It felt like this was a collision course that we were supposed to see the year before, and we got it, the year after. And honestly, that favors OKC. Because, Russ and KD are a little older, and Duncan is a little older. So, the first time they were able to see each other in the playoffs, having it be the next year probably benefits OKC.
Sure. I mean, Durant, that's his MVP season. He averages 32 points per game. Mm-hmm. Westbrook only plays 46 games in the regular season because he's coming back from the knee injury. He averages 22, 6, and 7. So solid rust here, especially considering he's knocking the rust off
Yep.
from coming back from the injury. So we get to this conference final series, and you think it's, it has the makings of an all-time classic, and then through 5 games, it's anything but. It's just one blowout after another. They flashed 2 graphics during Game 6 that I thought were interesting. So, one, they were showing the largest margin of victory in conference finals in NBA playoff history. And this is the 4th highest margin of victory ever in the playoffs in the conference finals. The Lakers Spurs in 01, Lakers Nuggets in 85, 76ers Celtics in 82, and then the average margin of victory in this series is 20.4 points per game through 5 games. Then the other one that they show early in the 4th quarter is that there were 54 lead changes in the first 3 quarters of the first 5 games and 0 in the 4th quarter. There wasn't a single lead change in the 4th quarter going into Game 6. That obviously changes. So starting lineups: Tony Parker, Danny Green, Kawhi Leonard, Matt Bonner, who got the start in Game 5. I love Pop just throwing guys like Matt Bonner in there in the most crucial games of the season, trusting that he's going to hold up. And then Tim Duncan at center. For Oklahoma City, it's Russell Westbrook, Reggie Jackson, not Mr. October, Kevin Durant, Serge Ibaka, Kendrick Perkins. And on the call, we have Marv Albert, Reggie Miller, and Steve Kerr, who has just, I believe weeks earlier, accepted the job to coach Golden State next year, still calling games for Turner. To me, this is like a top 1% announce crew.
Yeah, Steve Kerr was awesome on the mic. Awesome on the mic.
Could we take a second to just appreciate Steve Kerr's entire basketball career?
Yeah, absolutely.
4-time NBA champion as a player. Then he's the GM of the Suns from 2006 to 2010. He has multiple years as a commentator for Turner, where, like you said, one of the best color guys of all time. Then a top 10 all-time coach.
Yeah.
With 4 more titles to his name. And for good measure, a gold medal at the 2024 Olympics. Mm-hmm. Like, if we're just talking start to finish NBA careers, obviously he's not a star player, but what he accomplished is just kind of mind-blowing if you really think about it.
It is, and it's he's just such like a relatable person. Like he's a normally sized man. Seems like he's just a very humble, down-to-earth person. He certainly has values, and he will speak his mind on those values, but just seems like a really good person. And good things usually don't happen to good people, but it certainly happened, to him. Now, he had to take a punch for it. He did get punched in the face by Michael Jordan while he was playing. But he's had nothing but success anywhere he's gone. He also won like at multiple franchises. He's a part of the Spurs when they won. So just seems to be like a true winner, true team player. And I also really respect how he protects and advocates for the game now, and always has. Always has. Like, as a broadcaster, I think that's what made him great. And I respect that he does that as a coach. He'll come out and talk about how good the players are today, and he respects what they're doing, and he's not just living in his glory days. So that's what I really respect about him, and probably what makes him really successful, because he's just in the moment and not thinking about how the NBA was the best in the 80s.
Well, what's funny is you mentioned he had success with different franchises. One of those franchises is the Spurs. Yeah. And he plays under Pop, who is very much the same way. Player-focused, relationship-focused. establishing a winning, collaborative culture.
Yep.
Adapting to the skill sets of your players and not really having a system of your own that you force players to adapt to.
Right.
Like, I don't know. Some guys just get it, and Steve Kerr gets it. Okay, so the game. We're at Oklahoma City. It's the 165th consecutive sellout. Awesome Thunder crowd throughout the whole game, which isn't abnormal. One of the best home crowds in the league.
How about the start? Just like literally the first 2 plays of the game will tell you how amazing this game is going to be. We get a KD Dirk 1 foot fade away, followed by Kawhi comes down, they set a ball screen, he spins off it, and just absolutely posterizes Ibaka. In the first 2 plays, I was like, while I was watching it, I was like, oh my god, like that's the way to start a game. And the crowd was amazing, the pace was great, ton of talent on the floor. It was, the first 2 plays I thought really told the story in a way.
That has to be the earliest that Reggie has ever delivered the welcome to your Kodak moment in a game. I mean, it's 30 seconds into the game, and he hits the line. Like, that. I have to imagine that's the earliest that he's ever got one out. One of the things that I noted from the first quarter was there was a possession where Durant misses a contested baseline jumper and San Antonio gets out on a fast break. The Spurs have a 4-on-3. Ginobili has the ball on the right side. And he's got Mills and Diaw and Duncan all running with him. And Ginobili picks up his dribble on the right wing, and it looks like he's loading up for a 3. And Duncan, 37 years old, on one leg, is just sprinting down the lane, and he gets a transition dunk. And to me, like what I put in my notes was the fact that Duncan beats all these young Thunder athletes down the floor. When he was the furthest under the basket when Durant shot it, it shows you just how bad the Spurs wanted this game. And it also shows you the commitment to never giving up on a play, always making that extra effort. To me, that was just like beautiful to watch. To watch Duncan in this game, it was a joy.
Yeah, I have that note. Manu hits a streaking Timmy for a dunk on such a beautiful pass. It was a beautiful dime. No, I just think like that's the consistency though that just wears on you when you play the Spurs. Like Duncan's going to sprint the floor every single time down. That's what made him so good, and they call him the big fundamental. He was just going to consistently do the right thing, play after play after play, and challenge a young team to match that. And if you don't, you're just going to get worn down, and he's going to continue to just be fundamental every single play, and you can't match it, and then he'll beat you. Like, it's pretty simple if you think about it, but it's just so damn hard to play that way throughout an entire game. And they do that consistently, and they do it 5 guys.
I think that that's a really good point about the big fundamental, because I think that there's like a misconception with that where like you think of the big fundamental, and I want to say the first image that probably comes to people's mind is like the 14-foot bank shot.
Right.
And you think like, oh, the fundamentals, he's using the glass. But really it's that, but it's also running the floor on every fast break.
Right.
It's never missing a defensive rotation. It's passing out of a double team in the post at the exact right time to the exact right guy. It's all those little things. It's not just the 15-foot bank shot and the kind of mechanical sort of post moves and all the stuff that you think were like, I don't know, I guess early in his career people like thought all of that is boring. And you know, if consistent excellence is boring, then sign me up for it. And it becomes every player on the Spurs who becomes the big fundamental. They're just the team fundamental. I don't know what you would even want to call it, but it becomes a culture of we always make the right play, no matter what the situation is.
Well, can I cut in there for a second? And you're right. You are right. This is just a dumb note of mine. The Spurs are known for making the right play every single time.
Can I pause you?
Yeah.
Because I think I know what you're gonna say.
Go for it.
Except Ginobili?
Oh, well, kind of.
Okay.
Another guy. We talked about this guy earlier. Can Matt Bonner stop shooting so many threes, though, in the first quarter? That's not the right play. I mean, he was wide open. In the first quarter, he took a three at the top of the key that hit the right side of the backboard. And as I was rewatching it, I literally stood up and I was like, I could do what... That was me being stupid. I can't do that. But, like, what are we doing here? And then he took a three on the next possession. And I was like, Pop, take him out, dude. What are you doing? What are we doing with Matt Bonner out here? Put in DL.
Oh my God. I just laughed. I punched my microphone.
But no, I mean, other than Matt Bonner doing Matt Bonner things, they really do. They just play the right way every single time down the floor, and that's hard to beat. Like, I think you see that in a lot of different sports. Some teams are like that. I think the Patriots and their big run were very similar to that. I think when Villanova had a good run in like the mid 2000s, they were very much so like that, like just going to make the right play. They weren't extremely athletic and making these highlight plays. So there appeared to be boring teams, but those are the teams that tend to win and tend to have, a longer runway because it's not so reliant on athleticism and playmaking. It's just the scheme and the system, and this is our standard. And if we all buy into that, it's really hard to beat. So sorry, Matt Bonner. I had to just put everyone on notice that you had two horrible shots in the first quarter. Especially because OKC was hitting shots, and OKC went up 3-6 or 13-6, and I'm like, what? KD's getting all these shot attempts, and we got Matt Bonner taking the shots for the Spurs. Like, could we? But again, that was the right play because he was the open man. Right, and you got to shoot those shots when you're open. So,
no, he's in the game because he could space the floor, get Ibaka out of the paint, like. And I say that, and I don't know what kind of do you have in your notes if Ibaka was actually guarding? I would imagine that he was, and Perkins was probably on Duncan.
Yep.
But yeah, I mean, they trust the skill sets of all their guys. And the point I thought you were going to make about Ginobili was he was kind of the one guy where Pop was like, okay, you're reckless, but that is your superpower. Mm-hmm. We got to find a way to allow that to be within the fabric of our team because it's a dose of something that we don't have.
Right.
Ginobili obviously has a lot more success than Matt Bonner throughout their respective careers.
Yeah.
One guy who does not necessarily play all that Spursy on the other side is Russell Westbrook. This was an incredible Russell Westbrook game for good and bad reason.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was a captivating performance because we'll get to some of the bad, but I want to point out a couple plays from one was at the end of the first quarter and one's at the beginning of the second quarter. There's a play where he's guarding Diaw in the post and he's working to front him and he steals an entry pass and immediately kicks it into gear for a fast break opportunity. He gets fouled on the shot. The contact on the shot sends Danny Green stumbling into the stanchion under the basket. It's like he got hit by peak Adrian Peterson. and he's just like a undersized cornerback, and it's like, oh God, I don't have a chance here. So there's that play, and then there's a sequence in the beginning of the second quarter where there's an assist from Westbrook on a Reggie Jackson three. Then Westbrook hits a three on the next possession, and between those two, he puts the shackles on Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he was a really good on-ball defender when he was at his athletic peak, and he could be a little hectic and try to make some plays like as a roaming help defender that kind of put your defense behind the eight ball, because you end up having to rotate and teams get open shots. But when he just was like right up on Kawhi, and Kawhi ends up dribbling the ball out of bounds, I was just like, God damn.
Yeah.
Young Westbrook was just
He's a dog.
a force.
Yeah. It was his mentality of like, I mean, he was going to come at you 100 miles an hour on both ends of the floor every single possession, and a lot of that, I mean, you can't do that and be very successful. You could have some success, but you need to be able to play with some pace. You need to be able to, tone it down a little bit to make sure that we're getting the best look and not just the first look, or defensively not taking all of those chances and just being solid sometimes works, but you can't knock like his hustle. You can't knock the way that he left it all on the floor, and he still is. And that's why, like, I tend to look at him as a glass half full. Give me a guy who's just gonna, play his heart out for me. Like, I'll live with his mistakes if I know that every single night he's gonna go out there and put it all out on the line. Like, I can't knock a guy who's just gonna play that hard. Yes, he does have flaws, but I think everyone does. And this was like the ultimate Russ game. There were times where you were amazed by some of his playmaking, amazed by his athleticism. There were times later in the game where you were like, what is this guy thinking? And that's just the Russ experience. And I got on that. Like, especially post Durant, like, I was all on the, like, let's ride the Russell Westbrook roller coaster. I want to watch him play. I want to see what he's going to do. But in this game specifically, he had a lot of numbers, which we came to expect. And him and Reggie Jackson were a really difficult backcourt for the Spurs, in the first couple quarters. I think Reggie had 10 points early on in the second quarter. Russ has 11 in like 4, I think, after he hits that 3 that you were talking about. So, yeah, I mean, he really pushed the Spurs in this game.
I don't know. I guess to me, there's just no one like him. And you say glass half full, and I'm with you. One of the things, I believe it was Bill Simmons wrote this. He said that Westbrook was like the ultimate 90-10 guy, where you love 90% of what he does, but there's 10% that's like, this could single-handedly cost us a game.
Yeah.
But the 90% is like, more often than not, he could win us a game with everything he's doing. Yeah, it was a captivating performance. There were defensively, I think, was what struck me the most. Forgetting how good he could be defensively when he was locked in. Like, there was another possession in the second quarter where he's guarding Tony Parker, and Parker is doing his damnedest to get into the paint past Russ, and Russ just isn't having it.
Mm-hmm.
And Parker eventually gets him with a spin move, and you think, like, okay, he's getting into his floater. But at the last second from behind, Russ swipes in and knocks the ball away. And it's like, how many times have you seen a guy do that to Parker? Like,
right.
Once he hits you with that spin move, it's over.
Yeah,
but
Russ was
not with Russ.
no. Russ was his hands were so quick. Speaking of Tony Parker, really, I mean, a no-show. I know, we'll get into it, but he ends up leaving the game later on. But really kind of struggled throughout this game, and kind of struggled in this playoff series, to be honest. In the first quarter, they talk about it. He's averaging 21 points at home, but only 11 on the road. So a 10-point difference. And then in this game, he's relatively quiet. And yeah, I wonder if a lot of that has to do with just the fact that you had a young Russell Westbrook who's engaged guarding him, and it showed that, yeah, Russ could be a defensive stopper. He did it against Tony Parker, who at that point was probably the Spurs' go-to scorer, I would think. He's their leading scorer.
Yeah.
And that was Russ's assignment. He did a hell of a job. He also, carried a lot of the load on offense. Obviously, Durant, he couldn't be stopped early on. But it was a lot of Russ on both ends of the floor having to make plays for OKC. He was capable, that's for sure.
Yeah, so I guess we could skip ahead a little bit here, but we get to halftime, and the Thunder are up 49-42. They go on a 7-2 run in the last minute of the second quarter. Parker has 8 points, 2 rebounds, and isn't playing the second half, dealing with ankle soreness. So you get to the start of the third quarter. Westbrook has 15, Durant has 15, and no Parker coming out, and it kind of feels like, okay, we're 1-8-0 OKC run away from Pop just saying, let's just go back to San Antonio.
Yep.
And they even mention it in the broadcast, like that. I don't know if it was Reggie or Kerr who talks about how Pop might just punt this game. He doesn't want to put the miles on Duncan or Ginobili. But again, I think that this speaks to San Antonio's culture. Pop was notorious for messing around with lineups during the regular season before other coaches were doing that kind of thing. Mm-hmm. Now it's not abnormal to see guys getting, load management rest games, and you are putting different guys into the starting lineup and just experimenting. That was something that San Antonio kind of beat everyone to, was experimenting with lineups during the regular season. Reggie mentioned that San Antonio had 30 different starting lineups during the regular season, which was the most in the NBA that season. So, in some respect, they're better equipped to handle losing one of their top 3 guys, not only because there is a balance in terms of scoring, but because they've been in this position before where it's like, okay, Parker's getting a rest day, we're starting Horry Joseph. Mm-hmm. And Corey Joseph starts the second half. And the Spurs go on an early run. Just 3 minutes in, the game's already tied 51-51. And it's like, okay, we got a game.
Yeah, and again, they're not so reliant on just one player, because we're going to get the best team shot every single time down the floor. So it didn't feel like, oh gosh, now what are we going to run on offense? They ran the same stuff. We're able to push the ball in transition. And Corey Joseph was a solid player for them too.
Yeah.
He turned out to be a really good. That's another thing that they did really well, is they drafted and they were able to get, a lot of guys later on to fill out their rotation. Something that OKC has done really well. And it kind of reminds me of OKC now, where you could pick and play one of their bench players and they're going to come in and give you good minutes. And that's what they're able to do. And Kawhi and your man Boris Diaw, have a big quarter. They each score 8. Bonner hits a big 3 earlier on, cuts it to 2, and then they're right in the game. So yeah, that is definitely another culture piece. I think is like your next man up mentality for them is a little bit different than others, just because they're all bought in.
It's interesting you mentioned that about Oklahoma City now.
Mm-hmm.
And obviously he was there in 2014. But you have Sam Presti, who goes to Oklahoma City in 2007, which was then Seattle. But before that, he's in San Antonio. So he kind of cuts his teeth within this infrastructure. And San Antonio was obviously doing things a little bit differently in the early 2000s than they were in 2014. But they were still finding guys around the margins. Bruce Bowen.
Yep.
They pick Ginobili late. They draft Parker 28th overall. Even finding guys like Steven Jackson to come in and contribute to their 2003 team. Like, they just pick the right kind of people in the right moments. And that's on display here for San Antonio. And we get to the end of the third quarter. And I'm skipping ahead because this game isn't on YouTube, but it's on NBA.com. But even on NBA.com, it skips ahead at various points in the game, and it was very frustrating.
Yes, it is.
We miss a 13-2 Spurs run to end the third quarter, where we get the play that is in our goddamn intro. The beautiful ball movement where Duncan sets the screen for Ginobili on the right wing. Ginobili makes the pass to the opposite wing to Mills. Mills hits a streaking Duncan down the middle, and then Duncan pings it over to Diaw in the corner. I'm so pissed that we didn't get that in the game. They made me very angry, but we skip ahead to the end of the third quarter. I'm going to have to give NBA.com a piece of my mind.
Yeah, absolutely. For those keeping score, we're going to give Riverside and NBA.com a piece of Sonny's mind soon, so yeah.
Somebody's going to hear from me. I got some nits to pick. The Spurs outscore the Thunder 37-20 in the third quarter. And to me, this was a really telling stat from the third quarter. The Thunder have 8 turnovers, and the Spurs have 8 different players who score in the third quarter.
Wow, that's impressive.
Kawhi scores 8, Diaw scores 8, Danny Green scores 6, Ginobili scores 5, your man Matt Bonner cashes a 3, Tiago Splitter scores 3, Duncan has 2, Corey Joseph has 2. So just the balance of that team to pick up the slack when your leading scorer goes out with an ankle injury, and they have a big third quarter, and now we get to the fourth and it's a 10-point lead. San Antonio has all the momentum. Go ahead.
No, I just want to interject because you said they had 8 turnovers, and I was like, holy cow. So I'm looking at the box score. Durant had 5. That's super.
In the third quarter alone?
Yes. So he had 5, Russ had 2, and Steven Adams has 1.
A beardless Steven Adams, by the way.
Yeah, that was a note I had in the first quarter.
That was startling.
He looks like a completely different person. Like, yeah. And honestly, in a good way, I think he looks awesome now. Like, I love his look now.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's not the same person that plays currently. But I think the 5 turnovers talks to really how good Kawhi Leonard was on defense. And I think the clip that we see of like LeBron at the free throw line and he peeks over his shoulder and he sees Kawhi's coming in and he's like, damn. Like, Kawhi at that point to me was one of the best on-ball defenders I've ever seen. He was so strong. He had long arms, strong hands, big hands.
He had Colin Stucco hands.
Yes, and he would just really put the clamps on people, and he did. He shut Durant's water off, sparingly throughout the game. 5 points, 5 turnovers in the third quarter, though, as they go on that run. Like, that really talks to how incredible Kawhi Leonard was guarding the MVP at the time. At 22. How old was Kawhi at
Yep.
this point? 22.
22.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, we get to the end of the game, and Durant and Westbrook combined for 14 turnovers in this game. And I want to give a quick shout out to one other Spurs defender. Kawhi is obviously doing the majority of the work, and like you said, maybe the best. He's in the conversation for the best perimeter defenders that I've ever seen. But Danny Green
Yeah.
is a really underrated 3-and-D player. There was one, I think it was in the second quarter, where Durant has a post up and he pokes it away from Durant. When I think of Danny Green, another thing, and I don't know that he had any plays in this game, really good at like stopping a 2-on-1 fast break when he's the lone guy back. Yeah, I just between Kawhi and Green and even DL playing good defense and Duncan anchoring everything in the middle, they were just so fundamentally sound. Again, it's not just the bank shot. It's we're going to not make any mistakes. We'll let you beat yourself with all these turnovers. We'll be ready to cash in when you do. And they do. I mean, they go into the fourth quarter with a 10-point lead. Did you catch early in the fourth quarter? They show during a timeout, they go into the Spurs huddle. Popovich delivers a vintage Chuck Ferrantino line. Did you
Oh,
catch that?
wow. Let me hear it. No.
So he's talking to the guys and he's saying we need to play solid and we need to play smart. There's no hurry. And I was like, the Weege lives on. Chuck Ferrantino, youth basketball coach, Elba.
Yeah.
No hurry.
I mean,
No Cinderella passes.
no.
I mean, it worked its way all the way to the NBA.
You know what's funny though? Like in the moment as a 10-year-old kid, I was like, I used to pick on the no hurry, no Cinderella passes. And then I got to like high school, college, and I was like, oh, that's a great tip. Like that's one, like if you don't got it, like you better put some pep on the ball. And then like there are situations where like why are we in such a rush? And you just again Russell Westbrook, man, no hurry. Like there are times where you need to back it up a little bit and rein it in. So shout out to Chuck on that one. And also like as a high school coach for 9 years, I probably said a lot of similar things. Like, what are we doing right now? We're up 8 with a minute and a half left, and you're taking a transition layup. What? No hurry! Like, stop.
Yeah, no, it all really resonates. I intramural basketball one year. One of my teammates was my roommate Tyler. Really good guy, not a good basketball player. And he had a habit of throwing Cinderella passes. And I don't know that I ever said no Cinderella passes, but I do remember saying, put some fucking heat on the ball, because he'd throw these passes that would just lob in the air, and it just immediately leads to a fast break the other way. And I wish I would have had I was probably too angry to say no Cinderella passes, but I know for sure I told him, throw a real fucking pass.
No, but they just speaking of like no hurry, be smart. Talk about the way to start the quarter. They have a beautiful possession, Spurs ball movement written all over it that ends in a Diao bucket, like a wide open dunk, I think. That just it was like wow, that's the Spurs offense wrapped up in one possession. They go up 12. I think that also we see clearly without Parker, the Spurs are the much deeper team. And again, when you have guys, 8, 9 guys, who are committed to playing the right way and playing hard every single possession, that's going to wear on a team. And it just looked like at the end of the game, OKC was gassed. They had to be so consistent, and Westbrook and KD had to, shoulder so much of the burden that I think it just wore on them. And like just small things like KD goes to the basket and like kind of rolls his ankle with 10 minutes left, and I feel like that's just kind of like tired legs. And that was just something that I had on my notes, is that the Spurs really start to bottle OKC up late. It feels like they're the fresher team. And I think that all comes down to like playing Spurs basketball consistently is really hard to beat.
Great point. And you could, if you just look at the minutes played in this game, that tells the whole story. San Antonio, the only guy who played more than 40 minutes was Kawhi.
Mm-hmm.
Oklahoma City, you have Durant, who plays 51. Ibaka plays 48. Reggie Jackson plays 46. Westbrook plays 43. And then, just as like an additional kind of to your point, 10 guys for the Spurs score in this game, 5 for Oklahoma City.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to win like that.
Patty Mills was the only Spurs player who played in this game who didn't score. Everyone
Patty Mills is one of my underrated Spurs players. I loved watching Patty Mills with the Spurs. He was super efficient.
He actually played a pretty good game in this game. Like, even without the scoring, like 2 assists, 3 steals. He had a +5 for the game. Like, he just steady point guard, spaces the floor. I'm with you. I thought that he was a good Spur.
But what I will say is the Spurs go up 10 relatively quickly, or they're already up 10 to start the quarter, and then they hit up. I think Diaw puts them up 12. OKC doesn't have much going, but it just feels like Westbrook at this point in the fourth quarter just wills OKC back into this game, and that is why I love watching him play, because it doesn't matter how the game's going. It doesn't matter if his shot's falling, if he's played 50 minutes. He's going to give it his all. And when he's on the floor, there is potential for your team to go on a run. And I felt like this was the perfect example of that. And this is why it's the perfect Russ game. You get everything.
You really do. What I mean, just like a small thing. At the 7:27 mark of the fourth quarter, the Spurs are already over the limit. So Oklahoma City is shooting free throws the rest of the way. The play that puts OKC in the bonus is Westbrook getting his 5th steal of the game and getting knocked to the floor on a play in the paint. And we get that play, and then a couple possessions later, there's a really nice drive and dish by Westbrook to Ibaka, who finishes with a dunk. Then Westbrook hits one of those patented mid-range jumpers where it looks like he's going to just attack the basket, but he stops on a dime from like 18 feet out. And those shots are an adventure. I mean, sometimes like that you get like a Matt Bonner hitting the side of the backboard sort of result. But, I mean, obviously when he hits it, it looks real good.
And that brings it to 4, right? With 4 left, that pull up.
Yeah, and then the next possession, Reggie Jackson has a wide open 3, and at the last second, like he's already up in his shooting motion, Durant flashes wide open right under the basket, and he finds them, gets a dunk. Spurs call timeout. It's a 2-point game.
So, the next sequence is my favorite Russ sequence of all time, I think. It's just amazing. He turns it over. So Durant cuts it to 2. Westbrook turns it over, his 6th turnover of the game with 3 minutes left. Immediately they steal it from Ginobili. He gets it back, and then Russ turns it over right back to them. And I was just like, oh wow, like. I would have loved to watch this game with Coach P and just heard some of
God,
his analysis to this. But yeah, I mean that that 90-10 like you were talking about, like the 10% of you turn it over, you get it back, and you turn it right back over. 3 minutes left in a game 6, lose and go home game, and you're like, wow. But he's the reason they're in it, because he turns it over for a 7th time. Manu gets fouled, hits both free throws. Spurs go up 4. But then Russ scores 4 in a row. And I think the Spurs still have a 2-point lead with 1:30 left. But he finds his way to make impacts in that next 1:30 too. Like he's got his fingerprints all over this game, good and bad.
I think that was one of my big takeaways from the game was Russ at his peak is arguably the most impactful player in any game that he plays in. Mm-hmm. Because there's the good and the bad. There's so much of both. Mm-hmm. Like, even, like, a guy like LeBron, who obviously we know his impact on the game. He's filling the stat sheet. Most offensive possessions are running through him. He's going to make a few big defensive plays. But there are sequences in the game where he could find that time to rest.
Yep.
And kind of like blend in the background. And that's why he's been able to be so durable and play so many minutes, is because he's mastered this sort of finding breaks within the action to conserve energy. There's none of that with Westbrook. There has never been any of that with Westbrook. And it's just this game especially, like you said, this is the perfect Westbrook game. He is involved in fucking everything. Everything. I mean, just the amount of times that I had to have typed Westbrook or Russ in my notes, I have to imagine it is more than like the next 3 players combined for this game. It's unreal. So, he has 4 points to cut it to 2. A loose ball foul sends Durant to the free throw line with under a minute to go. That ties it at 97. The next possession, the refs miss a clear goaltend.
That was bad.
Ibaka blocks, I think, Ginobili.
Yep, Ginobili going
in
left.
The paint, and it hits off the backboard, and then Ibaka gets to it. And then the next possession, the Thunder get a quick 2-for-1. Durant drives, finishes with a really tough, like, right-handed scoop. He's on the left wing and kind of has to, like, bring it around, and he scoops it with the right. So that gives Oklahoma City a 99-97 lead. The first fourth quarter lead change of the entire series. And then coming out of the timeout, San Antonio calls a timeout. Did you catch what Kerr did?
I didn't.
Don't be shocked if they go for a 3 here. Remember, overtime means 5 more minutes for Duncan and Ginobili, and you've got a pending Game 7.
He called exactly what San Antonio was going to do. He said, don't be surprised if the Spurs go for 3 here. Overtime means 5 more minutes for Duncan and Ginobili. And accordingly, the Spurs draw up a play that get Ginobili a wide open 3. He hits it. Spurs go up 199, and they go 2-for-1. Now,
That's
there's 27 seconds left on the clock, and now the Spurs get the last shot.
That was in my notes as like that was awesome. Like, for them to basically, like, OKC goes 2-for-1, and then for the Spurs to draw up a play where they have the opportunity to take such a quick shot, so they know they can have the last opportunity, was amazing. Like, that's the small details that come up as wins for coaches. Giving your teams extra opportunities. That's the name of the game. In a beautiful play too. Like, Ginobili had a wide open look at the top of the key, coming off like a pin down.
And another thing, big fundamental, it was Duncan who set that screen that
Yep.
just erased Derek Fisher from the play.
Yep.
That sprung Ginobili wide open.
Yep. That's the consistency of just doing all the small things. So yeah, they go 2 for 1, and then the possession after that, Durant turns it over. Kawhi. I mean, that was some of just the best on ball defense. Durant couldn't dribble. Ends
Right.
up turning it over. They have to foul, but Manu goes 1 of 2 again. Like that. That's the weird. It's like 2 straight years in a row where at the end of games you're seeing the Spurs go 1 for 2 at the free throw line, and that's something you don't expect.
As Ginobili's about to take the second free throw, TNT flashes a graphic that he's made 41 of his last 43
Don't like
free
that.
throws. Does that count as an announcer jinx? Is that like a network jinx? Can we
Absolutely.
put that on the shoulders of whoever's in the production truck for Turner?
Just don't before I shoot it. Don't talk about my makes or misses. Don't dude. I remember and this is just I'm a psycho. I remember being in the semifinals of a sectional final game my junior year, and we were up by like 15 in the fourth quarter, and I had an open three, and I don't even know if I want to tell the story. It makes me look so bad. But I have a corner three, and before I shoot it, my superintendent goes, "That's money." I shoot it, I clank it, and I turn around and I said, "Don't say that." And I felt so bad because he was the nicest, best superintendent. Like, there's no
He had it coming.
superintendent like my superintendent in high school. He was the biggest sports fan of all time, and he was saying, like, "That's cash," before I shot it. But I was like, just don't. Like, before I shoot it, don't say anything. So as an announcer, don't say anything. Don't flash a graphic. Like, save that for after I make it. Don't jinx me. So yeah, that counts. Anything counts. But goes 1 of 2. Spurs are now up 2 late in the game, and it leads to more Russell Westbrook.
Lead for San Antonio. Fisher inbound. Westbrook played by Green. Westbrook on the move. Westbrook is fouled by Ginobili. Got it from behind. Green got him from the side.
Thunder run a really sort of clever action. They have a whole bunch of action on the left side. They have Durant coming off of a double screen. And as all that's going on, Russ is just kind of isolated and they let him go one on one. He gets to the basket. It looks like a makeable layup. I would say 9 times out of 10, he probably finishes that, misses the layup, but gets fouled, hits both free throws. He was awesome at the line in this game.
Yep.
No announcer jinx for him. I think you would, what was he, like 15 for 16 from the line this game? 17 for 18. Yeah. So it's 101-101. Spurs have the ball, and we almost get an all-time buzzer beater.
Yeah.
So Ginobili, they just ISO Ginobili. He misses a mid-range jumper off the back of the rim. And Duncan gets like a tipped putback from like 8 feet out. And it causes Marv to like very briefly lose it.
Yeah.
Like he's delivering the line. He's like rebounded by Duncan. He scores. And it's like, no, Marv, it was a clear second late. But yeah, we get 5 minutes of free basketball, tied 101-101. And it's exactly what the Spurs didn't want. I mean, they've been talking about it all game. They want to conserve Duncan and Ginobili as much as possible. But now we get 5 more minutes.
Yep. So we start overtime with a Serge Ibaka shot attempt, gets fouled, shoots 2 free throws, makes 2 free throws. Honestly, OKC, I think overall shoots, probably I could look it up, but seemed like they shot a better free throw percentage as a team.
They're 29 of 33. Spurs were 25 of 34.
Yeah. So, how about that? OKC out duels the Spurs at the free throw line, but Manu, after the free throws, the Spurs go empty on their next possession, but then they get a stop, and Manu takes it coast to coast for a layup. 4 minutes left. But then Russ attacks right back, goes to the line again, hits 2, giving them 32 for the game. And I felt like at this point is when the Spurs start to kind of slow down and give the ball to Duncan. Like, they really kind of start to slow the pace down and play a little bit more like they had used to. And it felt like at that point they start to take control a little bit.
That's exactly what I have in my notes. I have Spurs start to go old school Spurs.
Yep.
Because it's just Duncan post touch, one after another. The first time he gets fouled by Ibaka, he splits the free throws, so it's 105-104. Very next possession, same thing. They just clear the side. Duncan in the post. He has a nice drop step on the left block, finishes with the right hand. Spurs go up 106-105. 2 possessions later, again, right into Duncan. This time he goes for the patented turnaround banker. Ibaka fouls him, hits both free throws. And then I think we get probably the biggest play of the game.
Yeah.
Not long after that. Spurs are up 108-107. And Ginobili gets blocked. And the Thunder get out in transition. And it looks like Westbrook is about to get another transition layup. And Kawhi, in his big-ass right hand, I don't know if it's a block or a steal, whatever you want to call it, but it's arguably the biggest play of the game. I would even say arguably the biggest play of Kawhi's career up until that shot against Philadelphia. And then Spurs come down, and Duncan ices it. He gets a mismatch with Reggie Jackson in the post. It feels like there was a second there where Ibaka and Jackson could have switched. The ball gets like rotated to the top of the key, and like I don't know why they didn't try to get a switch there. But another Russ play.
Dude, that 3 at the end of the game?
No.
Oh, I was gonna.
We'll get to that because that was horrible, and that's the 10% for Russ. But they give Duncan an entry pass with Jackson still on him, and Westbrook comes flying in down the baseline, and he almost gets the steal.
Yes, he does.
But he doesn't, and he overruns it, and that's what sets Duncan up to be able to hit the post fadeaway. Spurs go up by 3 with 19 seconds left, and now we're getting to the Russ 3 that you mentioned.
Yeah, so after they go up 3, KD actually gets a good 3, good look coming out of a timeout, but he misses. Spurs hit a free throw to go up 4. And then Russ takes one of the worst 3s I've ever seen. I mean,
it's so bad.
It's so bad. Like, he's had such a good game, and then that 3, I was like, yikes. Like, whoa.
The Spurs a 4-point lead. You do not want to foul here. As Westbrook fires one up that carries over the backboard and out of bounds.
And that ices, like, the game's over. He ends the game. I feel like almost like, you know how during pickup you could kind of tell when it's over and the game starts to get really sloppy and no one's running back on defense and the game just kind of ends before the score. Like sometimes like the score, you don't even get to the final score. You're like, all right, this is over. That happened. Yeah. That's what that shot was. That shot was like, all right, let's just go home. Like this is over. So.
But that's crazy because they're only down 4.
Yeah. Yeah, but after
it wasn't over. It really wasn't over. But you're right. Shot, that's the exact kind of shot it was. It was like that's a shot like they're down 7.
Yes.
With 10 seconds left. Not 4.
Yep.
But yeah, so the Spurs end up winning 112-107. Durant and Westbrook go 1 for 10 from the field in overtime. And a big talking point after that game, the fact that Westbrook had 7 shot attempts and Durant only had 3. When Durant's the league's leading scorer, he's the MVP. I think that this game did a lot of damage to the Russ KD on-court partnership. I feel like this was the game where it kind of started to be like, Durant's not going to put up with this forever.
And it is, and I get it. And if you watch it, you're like, he made a lot of plays that he shouldn't have made, and Durant was probably. I mean, Durant was the better player, and you got to kind of defer to him. But then you look at the box score. Russ is plus 11, Durant minus 3. Like, yeah, Russ did a lot of things that weren't great in this game, but he also was the reason they were so damn close. And that, I think, that was the question they could never figure out, those two, is how to work together. Because they were both, supreme athletes, supreme players, and this was just the story of their partnership together.
Yeah, I mean, Durant goes 12 for 25. Westbrook's 8 for 23. Westbrook takes 18 free throws. Durant takes 7. So that's how you get Russ leading.
And he's 17 of 18.
Right.
I mean,
And add 7 rebounds, 8 assists,
6 steals.
And they both have 7 turnovers. So, it's not like Russ is the only one who's racking up turnovers in this game. Like, it was Durant, too. So, Spurs win the series. They go on to beat Miami in 5 in the NBA Finals. I wanna save a little bit on that because I'm sure it will come up in our draft that we're going to do. So, like I said at the top, I stole my co-host's thunder.
No.
Vinney is usually the draft guy, but I suggested, what if we do, and I guess we're calling it the crucial moments of the Spurs dynasty draft. We're drafting the moments that defined the Spurs run, and we're going to start from 2000 on, so we're not going to get like Tim Duncan getting drafted. We're not going to get the 99 title. We're not going as far back as like getting David Robinson. But really, these could be games. They could be a series. It could be a moment, a play, an acquisition. Really, like anything is kind of fair game. But we wanted an excuse to hit on, I think, 14 moments of one of the NBA's longest and most successful dynasties.
Yeah.
Anything to add before we
I think
get to it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's you said it perfectly, but kind of just like the moments that write the story.
Yep.
Or if you're reading a book about the Spurs, these are the moments that you're probably going to see, in that book. So, yeah, since you came up with the idea, I think it's only right that you get the first pick.
Okay. A lot of good options, but I'm actually going to take the 2014 finals.
I'm sorry. Before we get going, are we doing this like our first picks mean they're the most important? Like, is that how you're drafting?
That's how I'm looking at it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're not. It doesn't necessarily mean we're going chronological order.
Okay.
I guess just the moments to us that, and again, this is very like opinion based. We don't have a set criteria. But to me, when I think about the Spurs in the Duncan, Popovich, Parker, Ginobili era, I think personally their best team is this team, the 2013-14 team. They take this idea of beautiful basketball to its absolute apex throughout this postseason run, and specifically in the 2014 finals. They shoot 53% from the field during the entire finals. That's an NBA Finals record. They shoot 47% from three, 75% from the free throw line. They have a 119.5 offensive rating, which in 2014 was like unheard of.
Mm-hmm.
And especially in the postseason, and especially against a Heat team whose defensive rating was 105.8 during the regular season. But they shoot 87% in the fourth quarter of Game 1, finals record. 75% in the first half of Game 3, finals record. And this is the stat to me that stands out the most, and it epitomizes this specific Spurs team. In games 3 through 5, which were all Spurs wins, they threw 157 more passes per game than the Heat did.
Yeah,
that's insane.
That's insane.
And it epitomizes what this team was all about. It was their deepest team. It was their most unselfish team. It was their most resilient team. And I don't think it's an accident that it's their most international team.
Yeah.
And that's something that we hit on already. You mentioned it, I think, last episode, was the fact that Popovich really embraced international play and international players more so than a lot of coaches of his era. But if you look at that 2013-14 Spurs roster, you have Tim Duncan, who's born in the Virgin Islands, Parker, France, Ginobili, Argentina, Diaw, France, Kawhi Leonard and Danny Green are both USA. You have Bellinelli, Italy, Corey Joseph, Canada, Patty Mills, Australia, Thiago Splitter, Brazil.
Mm-hmm.
It is just an unbelievable blend of cultures and play styles and backgrounds. And one thing that always stood out to me was when you look inside that locker room after they win the championship, all these guys have their country's flags.
Yep.
And it's just beautiful to me. It's exactly what basketball should be. They mastered it in this run. And I think, to me, that's the defining moment of this whole thing. It's the climax of it all, but it's the perfect climax.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's a great pick. It's a great pick.
Sorry for my tangent. It
was beautifully said. Yeah.
But honestly, to me, like, aside from a handful of LeBron teams, this is my favorite basketball team ever.
They were very fun.
This specific Spurs team.
Yeah, absolutely. They gave you everything. All right.
And so one more quick thing. If I'm sure you've seen it, but anyone watching, if you haven't seen it before, go to YouTube and type in San Antonio Spurs beautiful game. It's a video by someone named Colin Stanton. It's like 6.5 minutes long. Just watch it, and you see everything you need to know about the Spurs, about the culture, and just like 4 minutes of beautiful basketball. Just extra pass, player movement, ball movement, unselfishness. It's just...
Yeah.
It's the ideal way that you want to play this beautiful game.
Absolutely. For sure. So to go off of that, the beautiful game, we've talked about the big fundamental, we talked about their culture, and I believe that all stems from your best player. I think the best cultures are led by players, not coaches, because they're the ones that are actually doing it. And if you live it, It's really easy for people to get on board, but when your best player doesn't live it, it's really hard for the rest of the team to get on board. So I'm going to go with April 4th, 2020, when Tim Duncan goes into the Hall of Fame. And I just think it was just a example, or it represents how great he was in his career. He was a 15-time All-Star. He was a 15-time All-NBA player. He was the Rookie of the Year. He was a 2-time MVP, 3-time Finals MVP, five-time champion, 15-time All-Defensive Player. Unbelievable. His stat line, averaging about 19 and 11 through his career on over 50% shooting. Everything about him is why the Spurs are what they are, why the Spurs were what they were. I think he's probably got his fingerprints on an organization more, or at least tied with anyone else in the NBA in their respective organizations. So I want to just do something to kind of shout out how great he was overall in his career. So I'll pick him going into the Hall.
That's a great pick. I'm actually, for my second pick, I'm going to stick with Duncan. I'm going to send us back to the summer of 2000 when Tim Duncan's a free agent and Orlando is setting up to make a splash in free agency. They're trying to establish their own big three, an early big three. They signed Grant Hill away from Detroit. They signed Tracy McGrady away from Toronto. And the third guy is supposed to be Tim Duncan. And by all accounts, Duncan is apparently really considering this offer. And the contract offer was 6 years, $67 million, which, tells you the time that we're dealing with here.
Right.
That's a max deal in 2000. But apparently Duncan's really considering this up until the point where Doc Rivers, who was the head coach of the Magic at the time, tells Duncan that players' families aren't allowed to be on the team plane. And that's something that Popovich did allow in San Antonio, and that was a deal breaker, apparently, for Duncan. And this story has been out there for a while. Like, I know that Grant Hill and McGrady have talked about how they go to Orlando and they think that Duncan's going to be there too. Even Bruce Bowen, he reiterated this story in 2017. But it's wild to think that just 1 year after Duncan wins a title with the Spurs in the lockout-shortened season in '99, he could have been gone, and it could have all been over. And, we're just talking sliding doors moments of the last 25 years. This has to be one. I don't know how, we obviously aren't in the mind of Tim Duncan. We don't know how close he was to actually signing with the Magic, but what happens if that's the case? Do the Magic have this kind of run? Does Doc have more than one title? Are we looking at T-Mac in a completely different light? There are so many different alternate realities here, but he stays with the Spurs. The Twin Towers stay intact, and the rest is history.
That's a great pick. That's a really slept on story too, that would have shifted the entire NBA.
Yeah.
Potentially could have started the wave of players joining together 10 years earlier than what it was. I'm going to stay kind of very close to that. You said the rest is history. I'll go Game 6 of the 2003 NBA Finals. Tim Duncan scores 21 points. He has 20 rebounds, 10 assists, and 8 blocks as the Spurs win their second championship against the Nets. It's Duncan's second Finals MVP. Really kind of solidifies them as a really winning organization. They've won now 2 in 4 years. And they have this rising superstar who is so consistent. So for my second pick, I will go with the second championship of the Spurs run.
Yeah, I mean, arguably the greatest Duncan game. It caps off a season where he wins regular season MVP, Defensive Player of the Year, and Finals MVP. That list is incredibly short. It might. I don't think Jordan ever did that because he won Defensive Player of the Year in the 80s. Hakeem may be the only other guy who did that all in 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah, great pick. That was very high on my draft board. Okay. I am going to go ahead and move forward 2 years for my third pick. And I'm going to take Robert Horry's fourth quarter and overtime explosion against the Pistons in Game 5 of the 2005 NBA Finals. He has 21 points in the fourth quarter and overtime. He hits a 3 with a minute left in regulation to put the Spurs up 1. He absolutely posterizes Tayshaun Prince in overtime, down 4. And then on the final possession of the game, Robert Horry inbounds to the corner to Ginobili. And our man, Rasheed Wallace, somehow coming up in another goddamn episode of NBA Campfire, inexplicably leaves Horry to double Ginobili in the corner. And Horry ends up hitting the game-winning 3 with 6 seconds left. And it's another one of those guys, like we were mentioning before, finding the value in role players. And obviously, Horry has done this before. He won titles with Houston. He was part of LA's three-peat. But, I mean, it's not just one shot in this game. It's a whole quarter and a half of Horry being the best player on the floor and making the biggest plays. And swinging the series in San Antonio's favor. They go up 3-2. They end up winning in 7. It's their third title in 6 years, second in 3 years. And I think that this is the title where you really start talking about like a dynasty in San Antonio.
Absolutely. No, I'm glad that Sheed got a mention. Good for Sheed.
I'm gonna find a way to get him into every
at this point
every episode moving. Yeah, it's like Jimmy Kimmel saying sorry to Matt Damon at the end of every episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live because they didn't have time for him as a guest on their very first episode. We're just gonna get Rasheed in every single one.
Absolutely. For my third pick, I will go with the 2001 NBA draft, where they draft Tony Parker with the 28th pick. His overall career stats is, something that's not great. 15 points, 5 assists. But he wins 4 NBA championships with the Spurs. He's a 6-time All-Star. He wins the Finals MVP in the 2014 year, the team that that's your favorite team, that really epitomizes the Spurs. And he just, to me, really does it.
That was actually Kawhi who won in 14.
14, yeah, I'm sorry. He wins in 2007.
Parker won in 07.
Yes, sorry.
Yeah.
Parker wins in 07. So I just think that he does a really good job of lengthening the span. He's the third part of their big three. And he has an overall just a great career for them. I think he's an all-time Spur and a guy that, you can't tell the Spurs story without Parker.
No, absolutely not. I mean, it's not like it necessarily started that great. Like he becomes their starter early on, but like I remember in that 03 finals run, like there were a few times where he got benched late in games for like Speedy Claxton.
Yeah.
And, with he's a small Euro guard. There's a stigma around players like that. But again, Pop saw the good in everybody. You have this lightning quick guard who has a lethal two-man game with Tim Duncan. That kind of becomes the basis of their offense. In that bridge period between Duncan post-ups and free-flowing motion offense,
Yep.
there's like a 4 or 5 year run where it's just pick and roll with Timmy and Tony Parker. And that was when he was at his best. I mean, you look, he finishes 8th in MVP voting in 2009, 12th in 2011, 5th in 2012, 6th in 2013. Like, he's right there. Like, indisputably one of the best European players to ever play in the NBA.
Absolutely.
Okay. With my 4th pick,
Yep.
I am going to stick with draft night. I'm going to move to 2011. And I'm going to pick the Spurs trading George Hill for Kawhi Leonard on draft night 2011. The Pacers draft Kawhi with the 15th pick. Immediately trade him to San Antonio. And this was, I think, a far more difficult trade for the Spurs to make than people remember it being. Pop, by all accounts, absolutely loved George Hill.
Yep.
And everyone within the Spurs organization was very high on him, not only as kind of like a Parker insurance policy, but someone you could play alongside Parker because he's a little bit bigger.
Yep.
He's got a nice wingspan. You could play those two together and get away with it. And Kawhi, he's a sophomore at San Diego State. He obviously has tremendous physical skills, but like the jump shot isn't there. You're not totally sure what he's going to be as an offensive player. It was a big swing, and it ends up swinging the next 5 years, not only for the Spurs but the Pacers as well. I mean, the Pacers could have paired Kawhi with Paul George in back-to-back drafts. And, you have them together with Roy Hibbert and David West and, like, this whole crew that is one of the best defenses in the league for, like, a 3-4 year run. You just drop Kawhi into that, they probably get over the hump and beat Miami one of those years.
Absolutely. Absolutely. No, it's a huge swing in the NBA. Yeah, that's a good pick. Well, I'm going to jump ahead then, really jump ahead, to 2017 in Game 1 of the Western Conference Finals, where Kawhi gets hurt. It's a team
Zaza Pachulia.
Yeah, I mean, it's a team that goes 40-1 at home that year. They have the second best record. I think that they actually set their wins record, their franchise wins record that year.
67, yeah.
Yep. It just happens to be the Golden State team is in front of them. And they were up 23 at the point against Golden State when Kawhi goes down. And to me, that just totally kind of like ends their reign. I think that's, a story that has to be told when you're talking Spurs, because if somehow they do win that series, and they go on and win a championship, I think, it only just elevates Pop. But we don't get to see, what that could have been because Kawhi goes down.
I mean, elevates Pop, also elevates Kawhi.
Yeah, and it probably keeps
by
Kawhi.
2017, he's without question their best player. He
Yes.
finishes, I think, third in MVP voting that year behind Westbrook and Harden.
Yep.
It's firmly his team, and there's a smattering of LaMarcus Aldridge there too. But like that, I don't know. I guess it's hard to imagine anyone beating that Golden State team in 7, but just the beating they were putting on them at Oracle in Game 1.
In a
Who the
year
hell
where
knows?
they didn't lose at home.
Right? Yeah, they're like
So
you said, they're
you
40-1.
you steal a road game, and now you have home court. Like all you gotta do is win 3. That's they have a real shot.
Yeah,
So yeah.
great pick. Unfortunate pick, but great pick. Okay, we've done 4 each.
Yep.
Correct? Okay.
Yep.
With my 5th pick, I'm going to go with the first round of the 2010 NBA playoffs. The Spurs lose to the Suns. And, like, at first glance, I don't think you'd think that a round 1 loss would necessarily be part of this whole equation, but this was the series that, by all accounts, forced San Antonio to have to change the way they played.
Yeah.
And I was doing a little digging, and there was even a quote from Pop, who apparently told his assistants immediately after this game, "We can't win like this anymore. We have to play faster." And they do. Their pace is 91.7 possessions per game in 2009-10. That goes up to 92.3 the next year, 92.9 the year after, 94.2 in 2012-13 when they make the finals, and then 95 even in 2013-14. So they go from 20th in pace in that 2009-10 season to 3 straight years in the top 10 in the league from 2012 to 2014.
Right.
And they start bringing in the guys who can fit that. They get, they don't have ball stoppers. It's not so much Tim Duncan paint touch and just like throw it into him on the block, and it's methodical and slow. They pick up the pace. They're throwing more passes, and that's I guess the origin story of like beautiful basketball.
Absolutely. That's a great pick. Can't argue it. Yeah, I mean, without them changing too, they probably don't grab those, that last run. So, who was the orchestrator of it all? It was Coach Pop. So I will, with my 5th pick, go with March 11th, 2022. Coach Popovich sets the all-time wins record for the NBA. Ends his career with 1,422 wins and only in 869 losses over 29 years with the Spurs. We talked about it throughout the entire episode, just what the culture was, the way that he approached the game, the way he saw the good in everyone. You mentioned kind of his ability to evaluate players from Europe and overseas and what they could bring to their organization. And I mean, he's a trailblazer without a doubt. Top 5 coach without a doubt. Obviously a Hall of Famer. And he sets the wins record. It proves the consistency that organization has had, and he was the guy that was there the entire time. So I'll pick the wins record for my 5th pick.
Fantastic pick. Yeah, like you said, most wins all time. Most 50-win seasons of all time. He had 19 of them.
Mm-hmm.
He's one of my all-time favorite sports personalities.
Yeah.
He he's the rare coach who doesn't have his own system. There's no ego. He's malleable, and that's always been, to me, his superpower. And the superpower of this organization is that they adapt to their personnel. They don't force their personnel to adapt to him.
Right.
And just like his commitment to bringing in high character people, guys who want to be coached, guys who, as he has put it on numerous occasions, have gotten over themselves. Like, to me, he's the greatest to ever do it. I think that he's the greatest coach in basketball history. Coincidentally, this episode is going to be going up on January 30th. That comes 2 days after Popovich's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Coach.
Happy birthday, Coach Pop. Fantastic pick. Okay, where do I want to go with this one? I will... Just because it's another kind of sliding doors moment, I'm going to go to the 2007 Western Conference semifinals, Game 4. Robert Horry hip checks Steve Nash into the scorers table. Amari Stoudemire and coincidentally Boris Diaw get up off the Suns bench and end up getting suspended for Game 5. Spurs take a 3-2 lead without those two playing, and then they win it in Game 6.
Yep, that's a great pick because they go on and they do some special things after that. And who's to say that wouldn't have been the Suns?
I mean, I think whoever wins that game ends up winning the title because Utah is on the other half of the bracket in the West. They beat the We Believe Warriors in the second round. Either of these teams, the Spurs or the Suns, beat the Jazz. And then it's LeBron and a really... I mean, we've covered it. That supporting cast that he had in Cleveland that year was not good.
No, the West was going to win the championship that year.
Absolutely.
No, great pick. Great pick, especially because that's like a something you don't... That's a hidden gem.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to go 2003 Western Conference Finals, Game 6. The Spurs close out Dallas. And they go on and they win a championship. We talked about how Duncan wins his second championship in 2003. But what to me is more important is the fact that they keep Dallas down. I feel like had Dallas won Game 6, they go into Game 7. If they win Game 7, Dallas never breaks up Nash and Dirk if they go to a finals. And then, that's a really good point. You know, the West is just a very different scene. So they win, they go on and win a finals, but kind of while they do that, they also prevent a really big rival from happening in Texas. And they kind of keep Dallas as the little brother. And I think had that not gone their way, things could have been a lot different in the NBA in the West in the 2000s.
No, that's a great pick. And I'll be honest, I didn't even think about it from, like, the Dallas angle of things.
Right.
But, like, if they get over that hump, they likely beat New Jersey in the NBA Finals. But they don't get over that hump until 2011 when Nash is long gone and Dirk is seasoned at that point. That's a really good pick. Okay, for my last one, this might be a little cheating. I'm going to go to the 2023 NBA draft when the Spurs take Victor Wembanyama first overall. Now, Pop is nearing the end of his career. The Spurs, all these guys who were affiliated with the run that we're talking about are gone. But the Spurs win the draft lottery, and it's noteworthy Not only because they have the chance to bring in this guy who, like Tim Duncan before him and like David Robinson before him, is looked at as a generational big man prospect. And what's telling about this to me, and this is a testament to what we've been talking about, the Spurs have established a culture of bringing in international players. And Wembanyama wants to go to San Antonio.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he wants to go to the big market. I mean, if he goes to a bigger city than San Antonio, he's arguably already the biggest star in the NBA.
Yep.
But he wants to go to an organization where he saw players from where he's from be appreciated and nurtured and pushed and maximized. And, you know, I think because Pop was still there, you could look at Wembanyama as the bridge to what will potentially be the next great Spurs dynasty. There's a 5-year window there where they're lost in the wilderness, but Wembanyama comes in and it kind of feels like we're gearing up for another decade-long run where the Spurs are at the top of the NBA.
Yeah. No, I think that that's the perfect kind of closing to your draft. It wraps it up nicely, just because it brings us to the modern day, and they're in a great spot with a very similar type player, not in the sense of their game, but international, low key, no drama, seems to be able to just make the right play. All about
embrace teammates, embrace culture.
Yep. Yeah. So no, that's a great pick. I'm going to cheat a little bit on my last pick too, because it's not necessarily about the person that they signed. It's about the type of person that they signed. So stay with me here, but I'll go July 15th, 2003. They signed Bruce Bowen. And to me, that is
on my list.
That's the epitome of finding, players within the margins that fit your system, that fit the players around them, and that could maximize, your star players. We've seen it happen time and time again with Pop. Bruce Bowen is kind of like the first, but then, you bring in a Steven Jackson, you bring in a Danny Green, you bring a Patty Mills in, a Corey Joseph. I think they had like Michael Finley at a point, an older Michael Finley. Just all of those role players that they signed to deals that weren't huge, that they were able to kind of peek around the corner and be like, this guy is going to be a very productive piece to our organization. So, I mean, Bruce Bowen's not necessarily the flashiest name, but I just felt like it was like the first role player that they signed that they really saw could help their franchise, and they made a name out of that through the next 25 years.
I mean, 8 straight seasons on either the first or second team all defense. That's not nothing.
Yeah.
3-time runner-up for Defensive Player of the Year. Also not nothing. Is he the OG, like, 3-and-D guy?
Yeah.
Obviously, there have been guys with that sort of skill set before him, but I feel like he's the first guy that I remember being mentioned as like, oh, that's what Bruce Bowen brings to the table. He's
he plays defense and he hits corner threes and only corner threes. And
we talked about that last episode. The Spurs were ahead of the curve with that.
Yeah.
They realized the value of corner threes before everyone else did, and Bowen was the recipient of most of those.
Yep, absolutely. So, yeah, that will round out couple of OLIs. I got the 2013 Game 6 NBA Finals. I think that's definitely a game that if you're talking Spurs history, you got to throw that in there. The way they were able to respond and come back to your first pick, the 2014 Finals. I think Kawhi getting traded in 2018 is in the book, and then obviously their championships 3, 4, and 5. But just kind of incredible that there's 5, really important things that happen that aren't even in our top 14 picks just because of how great of a franchise they've been over the last 25 years.
This was fun. I'm so
And sweeps. Oh, and yes, the opponent, the Memphis Grizzlies, still so banged up. Boy, they fight hard on Saturday night and almost beat Golden State. Still shorthanded, still going to the playoffs. Well, what a tough task tonight before a crowd that is ready to roar. It is our honor and pleasure to bring it to you. The victory the other night against San Antonio, putting them in this position to go for the records here in front of their home fans.